Well, I'm going to get started, even though I hardly feel like making a video, to be honest with you. This is the video, however, for November 11th, 11/11. And the title is, They Said They'd Leave the U.S. if... ... I know people who said, if Hillary gets in, I'll leave the country. Apparently, there are many, especially in California, who feel the same way about Trump. I guess I'm not much different when I say if God does not act, I want to leave the universe and never come back. While I do not understand how anyone can support anyone in the corrupt system, I do realize that humans have been brainwashed and polarized. We have been programmed not to love one another, but to fight those with different viewpoints. We cannot see objectively, at least not most of us. As for me, I will never accept any excuse as to why a loving creator would allow gross violation of the most basic of all laws. Do not violate the free will of another. While it is the most basic, it is also the most abused. Those who claim to rule the world have long violated that prime directive. Indeed, as I said, I hardly feel like making a video. I wrote that blurb over 12 hours ago, in the middle of the night, actually. And I have had trouble sleeping of late. I'm going through a tremendous internal struggle. I took my granddaughter to school today. She didn't go to school yesterday, the oldest granddaughter, who's in 8th grade. And she was up half of the night on election night, watching the results and crying because Hillary didn't get in. And I explained to her that there's a possibility that the real Hillary Clinton is dead, and that what we're seeing is merely clones. Many of you who have been paying attention to what's been going on in the life of Hillary realize that she was practically carried into a car when she behaved very crazily, and her head nodding back and forth like that, and her eyes, some have suggested that she died and that it's just a clone. Cloning is something that the elite do. They believe that they can extend their lifespan by cloning their bodies and making genetic copies as much as they possibly can. Of course, the clones don't have the longevity that a naturally born and naturally grown human being would have. But in any case, people were very distraught over the election results. And I can understand that, because while I don't necessarily support either candidate, and I certainly didn't support Hillary, and I don't support anybody that I consider being part of the political establishment, because the political establishment, as I've seen it for a long time, is committed to evil, and it's driven by demonic forces that should be put away and corralled by God. But God doesn't do anything. God just sits back and allows it to go on and on and on, and allows the injustice, allows the murder, allows the rapes of little children, and the molestation and the controlling of little children, the brainwashing. I watched Kathy O'Brien, and she told the story of how her dad, who wasn't very smart, sold his children into servitude to the U.S. government that was experimenting in mind control, and she became a mind control slave at the highest levels, with Gerald Ford being her first handler, and she hobnobbed with Reagan and all the people in political high places in the United States until she was rescued and actually got her mind back. But it took a process, and someone who actually loved her. And love is the answer. Love can fix whatever problems we face. If we would simply follow the divine directive of loving one another, we could resolve every issue that exists on this planet. But we refuse to do that which is most simple. Now you say, Ron, it's not simple to love each other. No, of course not, when we've been brainwashed, when we've been cajoled, and when we've been trained that we're right and they're wrong, and they're bad and we're good, and all of this nonsense. If we could only recognize that we all come ultimately from one source, and that source is life, and that source is loving, that allows free will, but goes overboard in allowing free will to violate free will, which doesn't resonate, doesn't make sense. It's, to me, an insane proposition. If free will is free will, then it's free, and it's not to be violated by any other being, as long as you don't hurt other beings. That's the violation. That's the limitation of free will. Your free will ends where the next one's begins, period. It's that simple to me, but apparently it's not that simple to anybody. I had a conversation at the gym earlier this morning, shortly after midnight. Actually, I went to the gym earlier than I usually do, because I, again, was having trouble sleeping. And I got into this debate with the manager, the shift manager, who, is arguing again that we have a right to do whatever we want, and we don't. God would be imposing if he didn't allow us to do whatever we wanted, even if it was hurting somebody else. And I was so frustrated with that conversation, I left before my exercise period was over. That's the first time I've ever done that. But I was that frustrated, and I felt that same sense of frustration all day long today. And I have been frustrated actually for some time. This whole year basically has been more frustration than not, because they stole my house that didn't have a mortgage on it. I know that sounds like a broken record to many of you, but I don't have a home of my own. I have a room that's mine, that my son grants to me, and he loves me, and we don't agree, but I do believe he cares a lot about me. Nevertheless, it's troublesome for me to be at this stage in my life when I see so much that's wrong, and I so much want to change it, and all of the things that I believe in but were foundational for my life have been challenged, and I don't even know what is true anymore, because truth doesn't manifest. What manifests is the opposite. Everything that I want, everything that I aspire to, it's the opposite things that manifest. And it's so nerve-wracking. It's so mind-boggling and troubling to my very soul. Anyway, if the people that don't want to stay here because somebody else is president, well, I don't blame you. There's a lot of things I'd like to leave for too. And I don't know how much longer. I've said that I'm going to at least continue videos till the end of the year. Today, I wonder how I can even make it that long. It's a struggle. It's a real struggle, and it hurts. It hurts. Anyway, I appreciate those of you that still listen, even though it may not make sense what I'm saying. I appreciate those of you that at least understand, and I don't appreciate those of you that come out dogmatically and tell me how I'm wrong, because I am in integrity to what I am, to my own life that I'm perceiving, and trying to be in integrity to what I believe to be true, even though the truth of it is challenging and seems to be evasive in manifestation. Thank you for listening, and namaste.